All right, guys, here coming back with another episode of Minor League News and Brews, doing the recap series. Last week was Indianapolis. This week is my favorite place, other than PNC, rolls off the tongue just as well. PNG Field. I only made it out there twice this year. I'm very, very disappointed in myself. Tried to make it out there for Skeen's debut, but couldn't get my 6-year-old son to go along with me. So I think we ended up maybe going to a park or something. But bringing in John Moses, that's no H and at spelled with a Z from the Altoona Curve. John, how you doing, brother?
Doing great, man. It's always good to talk some curveball.
Yeah, man, it's crazy that as quickly as the season started, it's now over. The major league playoffs are going on, and I'm actually just counting down the days until I get to go down to Bradenton, to Pirate City, and then come back out to Altoona. I just have like the greatest time. Those are my two favorite places to be, other than PNC Park. But definitely want to talk some Altoona Curve baseball. Not the type of season that us Curve fans were hoping for. 67 and 68, 7 games back of the eventual Eastern League champion, the Erie Seawolves. Got to see them play not against the Curve, but actually in Erie. I looked at the stats for the Curve this year: a 689 OPS, the league average 721. The whip, everybody knows I go towards the whip, the 1.407 league average, just a little bit lower than that at 1.363. But things weren't all bad for the Curve, because we saw a decent amount of call ups to not only Indianapolis, but also to Pittsburgh. We saw some, pretty big prospects come up to Altoona. But John, just what is your general overview on like what the mood was for this entire season? Because obviously the goal is to win the championship, and it just didn't work out for the Curve this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I sort of look at it in the context of individual player growth a lot more, where three guys in Altoona's starting lineup finished the year in the big leagues: Kyle Nicholas, Leo Piguero, and Henry Davis. And I think that that's sort of a player development win on its own. I think if the question is, would you rather the Curve go 74 and 67 and finish one game out of the playoffs, or make the playoffs? Or would you rather three guys in the opening day lineup, contribute to the major league roster in Henry Davis's case by like late June? Um, so I don't really register disappointment about the way the season played out. I think the club, changed pretty dramatically between, say, week 9 or 10 of the season in early June, mid June, when Henry Davis went to AAA, and then the next week Jared Jones and Travis McGregor and Kyle Nicholas all went. Josh Palacios was there, Domingo Leyba, like those guys were on. It was a much different team April, May, June than July, August, September. So I think that's why sort of you kind of look at the season long numbers and I just sort of shrug my shoulders at it because I'm not sure it's all that much, right?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's just, I mean, I know that I talk about the minor leagues, because the minor leagues have, prospect fans, but then they also have fans of like the individual teams. There's guys, I always mention the guy I run. I got to get his name next time I see him, but he's actually a Milwaukee Brewers fan for the major leagues. But he lives in Altoona, and he is a diehard Curve fan, and I've seen him in every single game that I've went to. So there's just like that thing where like you want to see your teams, start to win and stack championships, from top to bottom. But it's not the be all to end all. Like you said, if you have guys, like if you'd have told me at the beginning of the year, like I didn't see Jared Jones being promoted as quickly as he was. We
Yeah.
thought we were going to see maybe Henry Davis spend a little bit more time in Altoona, and they were having him and Endy do like the catching duties at different places and stuff. But I mean, you couldn't deny what he was doing with the bat, and the guy that like I think that he really needed to make this leap at some point in time, and it's somebody we brought up in when we did the preview for the season, and that was Piguero, because Piguero has this is been on the 40 man for a couple years, and we really needed to see something from him.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people look at his overall numbers in Altoona and say, okay, he batted 260. He, on base percentage 333, slugging 453. Did see a little bit more of that power with the 11 home runs. But for me, I looked and it was like 18.2% K rate, 10% walk rate, and just didn't have like that up and down season to me that he had last year, where it was almost a tale of two seasons. It may not. I think a lot of people are kind of okay. We want to see a guy hit like 300 and tear the cover off the ball, but
Sure.
there's like boxes that kind of need to be checked. But I was glad to see Piguero start to take some of those steps.
Oh, me too, man. There was like probably a 4-week period where I'd come into work every day and I'd say to myself, I wonder if today's the day Leo Piguero is getting promoted to AAA. Like, we saw him at his best the last 7-8 weeks he was in Altoona. Um, and, I think, John Baker put it really, really on the money when he was in town for Paul Skeens Day in August. I asked him about who are some of the players you're most proud of their growth this year. And the first name that came out was Leo Piguero for the way he bumped his walk rate this year. His biggest thing, because when he puts his bat on the ball, he hits the ball hard pretty consistently. It's just, he wasn't seeing as many strikes because he was willing to expand the strike zone, the second half of the year in 2022. And, even the first couple weeks this season in 2023, it was sort of like, okay, he's willing to expand the strike zone early in the count so he sees less quality pitches. But then at some point in like early May, he just started walking like crazy. Like, he started to go 1 for 3 with a walk every night. And at that point, pitchers were starting to realize that like they needed to throw strikes to him to get him out. And he was just taking advantage of it because he can hit anything in the zone. And he got better defensively, like just a really impressive year. And like, I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to like see him interviewed or talk to him. He is such a great character. I think he's got a great set of he's got a great set of like instincts about life, and he's just a really funny person. Loves music, like very outgoing, great to be around. He's so much fun.
Yeah, because I think that the Justice De Los Santos from MLB.com did like a story on him that he learned to speak English
Yeah.
better from like listening to music and stuff. And when he got called up, like he wanted to like surprise some of the guys that were at the clubhouse and everything. He just seems to be a guy that, like you said, just enjoys life, enjoys the game. And you did mention the defense, which was something that, a lot of people, I mean, they just they do like that. I guess it would be like the box score watching, and they see the errors and they see the different things. And they're like, well, it looks like he makes a ton of errors and different stuff like that. Number one, I mean, it's, in the lower minors, some of the field conditions, and then also, the players that you're playing with, but once you get to the major leagues and you see guys, make some plays, especially like he got going into the hole, doing different things that you could see him, definitely better at second base, but he's not completely out of his element at shortstop, which was what a lot of people thought going into this year.
Yeah. Look, the biggest thing defensively for an infielder is you have to make the routine play. And I think that was, sort of Leover's like Achilles heel when he was playing in Altoona in 2022, is that, he'd make a terrific running grab into the outfield, or he'd show you, the plus arm with a play going into the hole. But sometimes balls hit right at him would, result in an error. And you just can't have that, right? If you're going to play infield defense in the big leagues, like if the ball's hit to you or within a 2 or 3 step range, plays got to be made. No questions about it. And this is something that, I talked to quite a bit with Gary Green, who's a longtime minor league instructor in the Pirates system. He was the infield coordinator for many years. Terrific player in Pittsburgh, right? Back in the day. And those guys were working at it every day. And that's one thing that I really loved about working in Altoona this year was every day I came out or like looked out on the field when we're home at 2:15 in the afternoon, those guys early work before BP, like Gary Green's out there every day with Leo Piguero with Jackson Glenn, with Sung Chae Chang, like every day giving them ground balls, working on specialty situations. Maybe there was something in the game from last night they wanted to go over, but it was every day those guys were out there. And I think for Leover, that really paid off, getting that hands-on instruction every single day, not taking a day off from this stuff. And, I think that that's probably the biggest difference, right? That like you can see him defensively now. When the balls hit to him, you feel good about it. And,
Yeah.
I think that's different than where we were at, at the beginning of 2022.
Yeah, definitely leaps and bounds. And even at the major league level, they saw a need to have more of the infield instruction like that. They have Mendy Lopez up there working with some of the guys right now. So, I mean, I think that like as everybody's saying, like where we're at in this rebuild, I think that Ben Cherington and John Baker have looked to see where there could be possible deficiencies, within the minor league instruction. And then they've put different things in there to kind of help guys. And it's kind of in my mind coming together. I know a lot of people call me like the eternal optimist or whatever it would be with that type of stuff, or a lot worse names than that, because people aren't happy with losing. But I definitely see where, and talking with you guys and talking with Jack like we did last week, that you find out these things that are happening at the minor league level to help these players with development. Now, when we talked last time, we talked about the jump that happens from like the high A to double A, and that's like one of the bigger jumps, definitely within the minor league system. The major leagues, I mean, just getting from triple A to the majors, guys will say that's type of stuff. But we've seen, and I get worried at times because you'll see like a guy like Matt Frazier, tear it up in Greensboro, come up, hit a little bit in his like early stint in Altoona, but then when he gets the full season, kind of fell back a little bit, was looking for a bounce back year from him, didn't really see that and start to get worried. Matt Gorski is a guy I pointed out in one of my earlier shows. I don't know. It looked like he took like a step back in like every aspect of statistical stuff. But this is also a year that, he didn't have that break from injury. And it's really his first full year at double A, but people worry about that. And I know I'm going to mispronounce his name, even though you just said it and you told me how to pronounce it. And I should have written it like phonetically or something. Chung Shi Shang. I say it right? No. What do they call him? Big Z? I'm going to call him Big Z.
Yeah, they call him Z in the clubhouse, but it's
okay.
Sung Chae Chang.
Sung Chae Chang.
Okay. Yeah, like he sung a song, Sung Chae Chang.
Sung Chae Chang. Okay, I appreciate that, John.
Like
I said, I'm getting there. It was better than probably my first attempts, and I probably screwed up because I was going to try to do better. But the same thing we were talking like before the show, that just like a little bit that he was doing well in Greensboro, and not all of it was because of the friendliness of the park that they play at or the parks that they play at. But when he jumped up, there was like, I just had like oh my God, like, but then we saw him kind of start to develop into the player that we thought, or the prospect we thought he was going to be, in the rest of his time in Altoona.
Yeah, I think just from like a hitting perspective, it's such a dramatic difference between the quality of pitching you get at high A and the quality of pitching you get at double A. Just because, I think it more often at double A, you get guys that can consistently land breaking balls for strikes. And, that changes the calculus for a batter when you're at the plate, right? Because, at the end of the day, for all this stuff we talk about, the game comes down to who can throw the fastball the best and who can hit the fastball the best. I think that's just sort of, you watch the playoffs, I think that's sort of where the 50-50 mark is in the game. So the calculus is different, however, when you start to play professional baseball and guys don't consistently land their breaking ball for strikes at low A or at high A. And that's probably a benchmark for a guy to get promoted to double A, is can he do this consistently, land off speed or land the changeup to the, in the strike zone in addition to the fastball. So I think that adjustment is probably pretty significant for hitters. All of a sudden knowing that there's going to be more than one pitch in the zone consistently for strikes, and you have to be on time for the fastball because that's, usually the pitch that you have the most success against and the highest likelihood of doing damage. But if somebody's landing a good slider for strikes on the outer half to a right hand, you as a right hand batter, like that's something you haven't seen consistently before in your life. So, right? So
Yeah.
you have to, sort of get adjusted, okay, how do I attack pitchers at this level that have this skill that I have never played against before? So I think that's like that, that's probably why that's one reason I've sort of figured out why hitters, tend to say that the jump is so significant. Um, and that's why you sort of have to give these guys runway. You can't make a decision on a player through 25 games at Double A. You have to give them a couple hundred at bats to actually get a determination. If they can cut it at this level, and if they're going to continue advance, and have the ability to make adjustments, to things they've never seen before as a hitter. So it's really a dramatic jump. I think that is correct. But it's just hard, man. Like, it's so hard to hit a baseball.
It's like, I mean, they say it's the hardest thing to do in life, and I definitely don't doubt it, and especially with some of the skill sets that the pitchers are adding, and the different pitch mixes and the spins and just ridiculous pitches that you're seeing, especially as you move, like you said, up through the system. You're seeing stuff that you've never seen in your entire life, and you're like, I thought I knew how to play baseball, and now it's just like I have to like relearn some of that stuff. And it is a very dramatic jump. And it's, I mean, I've been watching minor league baseball forever. And I mean, I was going out to Altoona when I was in high school, and that was, we're not going to talk about how many years ago that was, but no, you get, and that's the other part is, as somebody that watches prospects, you get attached to prospects, and it's just kind of explaining to some people that this may be like the highest level some of these guys reach if they can't get beyond a certain like skill set, or if they can't start to read certain pitches. And as for a pitcher, if they can't hit it within the zone, but also have a whiff rate within the zone, there's like a lot of different things that need to happen. One guy that another like guy that I was surprised that made it to Altoona as soon as he did, and that's Anthony Solomito, MLB prospect pitcher for the Pirates, pitcher of the year within the system, 20 years old, like a kid, like an absolute kid. So anything you look at within Altoona, and the numbers will obviously take a step back as the competition goes up, but it didn't look like he shied away from the competition whatsoever.
No, and first of all, he is not 20 years old. Like, from like an emotional maturity perspective, he is wise, well beyond his years. Really down to earth guy. He's got some purpose in life based on how his life has sort of played out, and like, I mean, I love covering that kid. He's so much fun to be around. He's super nice. We've got the Go Eagles thing going on in common. Um, I'm a big fan of Anthony Solomito. I mean, just what a guy. I think he probably surprised a lot of Pirates people by getting to Double A so quickly this year. I think you're probably right about that. 20-year-olds in Double A don't happen very often. In fact, I was just doing this in my final game notes. The Pirates are one of two organizations to have two guys pitch at Double A at age 20 or younger this season. The Diamondbacks had two guys that also got to their Double A club at 20 or younger, but Solomito and Bubba Chandler together, and Bubba turned 21 like a week after he made his Double A debut. So, we can sort of set that aside for a moment, but like, Anthony threw 50 innings at Double A, third most by a guy his age or younger, and he held his own. I think he probably got tired as the year wore on, right? Like, the velocity was down a little bit, but he's still getting guys out because he can land his changeup to both sides of the plate. He can command his fastball as sort of like awkward and funky as his delivery is, with that long arm action. And that exaggerated step out, he's pretty unique in that you don't see guys throw the ball like him consistently. But he's got fastball changeup to both sides of the plate for strikes now. as a 20-year-old. So, you know, he's got the tools. He's going to get there. He's got feel for the ability to spin the baseball. I think the slider's, a little bit short in terms of distance. It's more of an east-west pitch than a north-south pitch. And, I would like to see him add something sort of north-south to give hitters a different look. But when he comes back strong next year, and he's back into the typical velocity range he was at the beginning of the year, 92 to 96 miles an hour. I mean, that guy's going to be in the big leagues pretty quick. Like that kind of package looks pretty good. So he's a puppy, and he's just in a really good place, man. He's so much fun.
Yeah, and I talked about him previously and kind of told people, like, when they saw stuff go down at the end of the season, they saw him go on the developmental list. I was like, he didn't pitch that many, innings in high school his senior year. He, didn't pitch, too many innings last year. And it's just like, it's that ramp up. Like the pitchers need to build endurance. Like, people think that a pitcher just goes out there and pitches 150 to 200 innings in a season. Like, that doesn't happen. And that's why I thought it was so good, Mitch Keller, as, one of the pitching leaders within the Pirates clubhouse, even pointing out that, his goal for this year was 200 because he wanted to build, towards the offseason, because he realizes that maybe 200 was kind of like around his cap for this year. Because, I mean, you have to build up the strength in that arm. Solomito, what we saw from him, I look at him, like you said, as the pitcher he was through the first, 3/4 of the season, as opposed to the guy that you could say might have been getting a little bit fatigued, but that's to be expected. And once again, 20 years old. Jared Jones, another young pitcher. I mean, he was down in there. He was 22 I think his 22-year-old season. We've got a lot of young talent on that pitching landscape. And then you throw Paul Skeens in the mix, and you've got, four pretty like high-ranking prospects that are all, 23 years or younger going into next season. That's pretty exciting.
I mean, so as you look sort of in the context of the rebuild, the initial wave was hitters, right? O'Neal Cruz and Henry Davis and Liover Piguero. But it feels like this next wave is pitching. Paul Skeens, Bubba Chandler, Solomito, Mike Burrows. He's going to be coming back from Tommy John. Like, there's a lot of pretty good pitching coming. You and I haven't mentioned Braxton Ashcraft, but he's another guy with the type of elite stuff that's going to get there. And, he was off of Tommy John this year, so he got to about 52, 53 innings. Like, he'll probably be on a pitch count next year. Like, he'll probably have a hard cap of innings, but, it wouldn't be that crazy to me if Braxton Ashcraft made a couple starts in the big leagues in 2024. Like, the stuff is that good. So yeah, like this wave of prospects for the Pirates is pitching. And for me, like I love to watch pitchers. I really like sort of geek out on it. So it's really fun in Altoona that, the opening day rotation for 2024 could be Paul Skeens, Bubba Chandler, Anthony Solomito, Braxton Ashcraft, and then Sean Sullivan. Like, that's like a pretty electric group, and a group that really gives you a chance to win every day at Double-A and probably at Triple-A too in a year. So it's pretty cool, man. Like it feels like they've figured out a nice group, a nice crop of guys, and some of those guys are definitely going to pay off.
Yeah, and like they're saying from the major leagues down is, you just kind of just have to stack pitching on top of pitching on top of pitching on top of pitching, because with just like injuries, setbacks, whatever it may be, you don't wish that upon anybody, but unfortunately, that's definitely going to happen. And you kind of took the next question out of my mouth, because you mentioned Ashcraft, and I was going to say, who are some guys that maybe kind of slid under the radar in Altoona with the top prospects that were there, the people that were getting promoted. Everybody was focusing on, Henry and different stuff at the beginning of the season, focusing on, maybe like a Jace Bowen getting promoted towards the end of the season. Is there anybody else that you think before we get out of here today that you can think of that maybe just like not enough people have heard about from Altoona this season?
Sean Sullivan. This is a guy that is committed to pitch to contact, so he's not going to end up on big sexy profile playlists. He's not going to be on prospect lists because he's 89 to 92. But he's got multiple pitches to both sides of the plate for strikes. He's got sort of the big sweeping slider, that sweeper that, we hear a lot about in today's game. But he's got feel for a cut fastball that he's going to throw to both sides of the plate. And it's a good changeup. He gets left-hand batters on that pretty quickly. So, he's a guy that I think is going to pitch in the big leagues for a while because he's not trying to do too much. He knows who he is, and he's got a really good feel for the strike zone. He doesn't walk guys; throws a lot of strikes. I think Jace Bowen is somebody else that you're going to want to be aware of for next year. I mean, he's coming off a 2020 season. Those don't happen very often. Combination of power and speed. He's going to strike out a little bit. I think that's just sort of the nature of his game, but I think he's got a chance to play center field. And, guys that can hit 20 home runs and play center field defensively are guys that you're going to keep around and, probably have a big league impact at some point. Been a big fan of Braxton Ashcraft. I mean, started to talk about him a minute ago, but Ashcraft's 95 to 98 with two good, distinct breaking balls and feel for a changeup. That right there is tools enough to be an effective reliever. But I think, once he gets the full year here coming out, he's probably, he'll be a full go for 2024, probably to 120 innings. And if you let him go 5, 6, he's got the tools to turn a lineup 3 times. Developing starters is extremely difficult, but I think he's already got the tools for it now. It's just about how consistently can he do it? Can he show us that for 6 innings, 7 innings, and then do it for 3 months in a row? I think that's the question mark for him going into next year, but he's a guy that I think could blitz onto the big league scene pretty quickly. Once people realize he's healthy.
Yeah, all good stuff, man. And great having you on here again. People that don't go follow John Moses once again. That's John without the H and @ spelled with a Z on X, or I still slip and call it Twitter sometimes.
Stop.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's Twitter. And if you haven't, anybody, you can see behind me here, beautiful PNG field. It's one of my favorite places to spend an afternoon, an evening, whatever it would be. John, good talking with you, brother. Can't wait to have curve baseball back again in the spring.
Me too, my man. And next time you come out to Altoona, let's make sure we get you some of that pizza.
Oh, absolutely. I actually have never tried. I usually get a curve burger, man. But I'll try the pizza. I'll try it.
Good. We'll get you a slice of pizza on the way to the game. And just have one so you can still get that curve burger.
That sounds good, brother. Have a good one.
Thanks.
All right, guys. It's time for those beer reviews. I got 5 for you here today. I was going to only have 4, but I picked up a specialty one. I hadn't seen it before. I don't know when it came out. I'm not as much of an aficionado as I once was. It's the Fake Slide. I don't know if you can see it there, from Southern Tier, the ode to Kenny Pickett. Not a Pitt fan myself, but I am a Kenny Pickett fan now as a Steelers fan. This one is the Fake Slide Pilsner from Southern Tier, 5.5%, coming in at a 400. Knock that down to 350. The other one I sampled the Harvest PA Hellas Lager from Pittsburgh Brewing Company. Yes, the people that bring you Iron City and ICU Light are dipping into the craft beer scene. This one's coming in at a 5.0. I give that one a 375. Knock it down to 325. Going back to 3 Oktoberfest, I got the Shiner Oktoberfest, 5.7%. 375, knock that down to 325 from Rheingas. Cincy made. We've done some from this brewery here before. They do the Franz Oktoberfest. This one's a little bit lighter. It comes in about 5.4%. Give that one a 350, knock it down to 300. And then I tried the local Yingling Oktoberfest. It's a smooth Oktoberfest. It might be good for people that are kind of trying to make their way into the craft beer scene, or at least the Oktoberfest. It's definitely not as heavy. Giving that one a 350, knock it down to 300. Once again, thank you to the guest this week, John Moses. It's John without an H, at spelled with a Z on Twitter from the Altoona Curve. I can't wait to get you guys down to Greensboro next week. Talk about some Greensboro Grasshoppers baseball.